You got your Mad guys here on Birds 365, a full football Friday, because there's no football coming up this weekend. We've got a fun guest to join us next. Before we do, though, I just got to throw these numbers out there. John said Easton Stick's numbers weren't bad. They were terrible. 74, his passer ratings, 74.6, 78.8, 87.3. Ooh, he went 113.7 because his team was behind by 40 points. The Vegas Raiders put up a 61 spot, so they went prevent defense. So he actually accomplished something. And his first start, 78.3. If you're not a 90, you shouldn't be in the league. 3 out of his 5 games were below 80. He's terrible, just awful.
He's killing me. I mean, I was looking at the accrued numbers. It ended up at 85.6. Now, remember, he's a backup quarterback, Jody. He's not getting. Nobody. And by the way, why am I defending Easton Stick? I didn't say I wanted.
And then there's Joe Flacco. So if you want to just throw the coverall, always a backup quarterback.
Joe Flacco's won Super Bowls and was a long-time starter in this league. Let's get Hunter Brody in the conversation for some common sense. Joe Flacco's Joe Cool, baby. He won Super Bowls.
You guys are unbelievable.
Quarterback.
You guys are unbelievable. Yeah. I could sit here all day. Keep going. This is great.
What do Joe Flacco and Easton Stick have in common? They're backup quarterback. They started the season. Well, Joe was sitting home on his friggin' couch, but he was brought in as a backup quarterback.
At the Legacy Diner in South Jersey.
Hey, I love my diners, baby.
Yeah,
give me that pork roll, egg and cheese. The here's
something.
Come on, baby.
I had to look it up. Here's something they don't have in common. Joe Flacco has started 201 NFL games. 201, Hunter Brody. Easton Stick, 4, because Justin Herbert got hurt. But
sometimes I throw you guys on my desktop over here as I get things done in the studio.
Sometimes you got to do it every day.
No, I'm just saying. Well, you're right. Shame on me. But I laugh because you guys get into conversations that I would never, ever imagine getting into on any day of my life.
Don't blame John. Don't blame me. Blame Dave Zangaro because he wrote an article about they could have interest in Easton Stick because his paths crossed in San Diego last year with Kellen Moore. I just read it and then I reacted to it. And my reaction is not on a bet should the Philadelphia Eagles have Easton Stick on this roster this upcoming year. All right, Hunter, it's been a bit since we got you on. You win any money on the Super Bowl? You riding that Andy Reid train?
No, I didn't win any money. I just went for some fun entertainment, though. Listen. I had my fun with the betting experience. I took a little break, and that included the Super Bowl because I have diapers to pay for now, and things weren't going well. So, You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But look, I did root for Andy. I was rooting for Andy. I was rooting for Pat Mahomes. I love dominance. I love it. And the fact that they do it again, I'm watching Mahomes run just like we watched him beat up on the Eagles with his legs. I love it. There's nothing better to me than watching greatness in this league. And whenever the Eagles aren't involved, even if it was the Lions, this is less about the Niners for me, which I know a lot of this city just grabs onto the hatred of the Niners. I would be rooting for the Chiefs no matter who they were playing outside of the Eagles. And it's incredible. Like, in what world are they doing this like this? No matter the circumstance, no matter the score, no matter if Andy Reid uses a timeout to start the second half or not, when it's money time, Pat Mahomes delivers. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, he is incredible. I'm interested. I'm not a dominance guy. I want new blood. Like I wanted the Detroit Lions in that Super Bowl. I wanted to see that. And they should have been in there, by the way. But they didn't make. I want to see you're repping the Fly guys. You're my Flyers guy.
Of course.
I want to see the Flyers back in the play. I got to get some new blood in the playoffs. And we saw Detroit.
Yeah, but you know what? If Tampa Bay, trust me, I'm not going on a hockey tangent here, but if they're winning Stanley Cups after Stanley Cups after Stanley Cups, I love that. Like, I love it because
I respect it.
I know you do. Of course. But it's like these are the greatest in the world at what they do. And then there's 3 or 4 guys that are the greatest of those greatest. And I just am enamored. And by the way, I'm so damn jealous because could you imagine back in 2017, of course, the parade was in 18, but if we were able to get a back-to-back Super Bowl run in Broad Street where you don't even have time to really embrace what you did the first time around because the party's coming again.
You know what? You know what's interesting to me? When you hear about Super Bowl week, like I went through this in Minneapolis, Super Bowl 52, like there were way more Eagles fans than Patriots fans. And I would explain to people, well, the Patriots are here every year. These freaking excursions for fans are expensive. So you got to pick and choose. Same thing with the Chiefs this year in Vegas. I heard it all week. There's so many more 49ers fans here. The Chiefs are always there. You can't blow 15 grand every year if you're an average fan. So that's part of it as well. But it's when you have that kind of dominance of Patrick Mahomes, man, six consecutive AFC championship games. At his age, he's already got 3 rings. Yeah,
and this is the most impressive. I don't know if you guys wanted to go down Super Bowl way or not, if you want to go Eagles, but regardless, this is on the road, not playing home games throughout. So you're playing Baltimore. You know, you're beating up on some of these teams. You Buffalo. Don't have the bye. Yeah, right. Yeah. You're beating Buffalo, and everyone rips Josh Allen to death, and reasonably so. He turns the ball over and he chucks it downfield and whatnot. But without Pat Mahomes, I do believe that we'd see him competing in an AFC championship game for once. And this guy is getting stuck. He's getting stuck. It's guys who get stuck behind Michael Jordan and never get a ring. And it just enamors me, and it excites me. I look forward to that. I really do. I look forward to watching Pat Mahomes block people for eternity in the AFC. Luckily, we don't have to worry about that on this side. You know what I'm saying?
Except you're going to have to beat him in the Super Bowl again. You're going to get a shot at him. It's going to have to be in the Super Bowl again. And he's proven he's pretty good in that game, too. So eventually,
you got to worry about Corn Dog in the Super Bowl. You
do have to worry about Corn Dog. The ironic part is, though, I thought Hurts and the fumble is killer. I know it's killer.
He played better. I say it all the time.
Exactly.
He outplayed Mahomes.
He did.
And Mahomes played well. I agree with you.
The guy who took advantage of it was McVay. He got lucky in that Joe Burrow beat Mahomes. So he didn't have to play Mahomes in a big game, and he got himself a Super Bowl ring.
Hey, that's a good point, yeah.
All right. Let me tie Super Bowl and Eagles together because I'm pretty sure we asked you about this, but I forget, Hunter, so I apologize. When Sean Desai was told, listen, during the game, you can go have a hot dog in the press box because we're not going to allow you to call the defensive plays anymore. Wasn't fired, didn't step away. He just took on another role that didn't include really contributing anything. We were told that it was Nick Sirianni's decision. I didn't know if I believed it at the time. I continue to not believe it all the way up until the press conference when he and Howie sat there together, and Nick looked right in the camera, and I think we found out that Nick's a good liar when he needs to be because he said that there wasn't going to be a change made at coordinator. And then they found out after the fact that, they made the change. And they made it before Nick said there's no change. And they put Sean Desai up there to answer questions on a Tuesday. So he showed his lying skills. But I don't know what it was about that press conference that he just made a believer out of me. That I believed it was his decision. That it wasn't influences from above, that they actually had to sign off on it. He took it, Howie and Jeff, and they said, all right, if you want to do this, you can do this. And then it blows up in his face. For me, that was a fireable offense. You make that strong a call, and it goes that badly thereafter, that should cost you your job. If you're the head coach of the football team, and they did everything but fire him, took away all his power. But I thought that was a fireable offense. I think what happened in the Super Bowl was also a fireable offense. I think you can fire Kyle Shanahan for not knowing the rules of overtime. They changed the rules. He gave you a half-hearted explanation after the fact, but
they doubled down, by the way. He
right.
doubled down on that.
They got 49er players on the record, on the sideline during the game going, I didn't even know that was the case. So if he knew that's one thing, he didn't explain it to his players. He didn't have all his players up to speed on what the rules were for overtime. That's a fireable offense for me. Neither of those two guys lost their job. Am I just a big dick? Because I would fire people for this, and yet they both keep their jobs.
These are
both. It might be a fireable offense, and you're a big dick.
And you're a big dick. Yep, these are two totally different conversations. So I don't know which way to go here. Oh, that's phenomenal. So you know what? You're right on both fronts, though, on the firing of the coaches thing, though, and that's why with the whole Nick Sirianni thing, I'm actually still in the belief that it was Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, because if it was truly him and it was truly Nick Sirianni's decision, you can't bring this guy back. And they know deep down what conversations were had behind closed doors. So they could say whatever they want publicly, but they know in their gut what really happened. And I have to imagine that that's a Howie call, because we've been around a long time. That's how Howie Roseman operates. So maybe we do have to give credit to Sirianni for putting on a better front, because, I would never think in a million years that he'd be able to play that card. The Shanahan thing. All right, this is where I got into a big debate on WIP with somebody about this, because a caller pretty much said that Kyle Shanahan's a nobody, and this is before the Super Bowl. So this is before we saw the outcome, and my response was, and this guy gave, by the way, a ton of praise for Andy Reid for what he did in Philadelphia, but not being able to win the big game wasn't a big knock on his criticism. He loved the NFC championships. He loved the idea that you were always in competition, but then he ripped Kyle Shanahan for not winning the big game. And I'm like, well, this is kind of hypocritical. If Shanahan is constantly right. And if Shanahan's constantly getting there over and over again, it will eventually fall in his favor. I do believe that. And this was atrocious. It was so horrendous, garbage, disgusting, pitiful, you name it. But there were probably a lot of examples of Andy Reid going through some pitiful time management situations on big stages. And he eventually got through. Now, he had Pat Mahomes, and people make the debate that it was Pat that got him through, whatever. That's for a different conversation. But at the end of the day, while Kyle Shanahan screwed up heavily, he's always at the NFC Championship game, always at the Super Bowl level. The guy can learn from, hey, I mean, that was as ugly can be. But how do you fire someone who's always there with Brock Purdy and all these other guys that has to hold some type of weight?
Jimmy Garoppolo. He's making Super Bowls with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Now, Kyle Shanahan has a flaw right now that is limiting him to winning the big game, but he's always at the big game. So what do you do with that information? Can he continue to work on it? You keep getting there, and hey, he won't screw up overtime next time if it ends up happening. What do you do with this? And I'm just asking questions out loud. I don't have the answer. I would think you stick with it, though, and you keep digging, you keep churning until you eventually fit the key in the hole, no?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
They answered that question, Hunter. They scapegoated Steve Wilkes. They did what the Eagles did. Everybody does it. Somebody's got to pay for this. We're not going to fire the head coach. Let's fire the defensive coordinator, who the head coach doesn't like anyway. Let's get rid of him.
No, that's a good point. They did use a different scapegoat there. And Steve Wilkes, the guy in Arizona, it's just crazy what he's been through. Carolina.
With the overtime stuff, it's so difficult. On one hand, I'm like, boy, you should just admit your mistake and try to move on. But if you admit mistakes as an NFL head coach, they never let you move on.
I know.
So you almost have to. I try to put myself in that situation. What would I have done? I'm like, oh boy, because there were a bunch of people. I'm following along on Twitter, which is my own fault. There were a bunch of people when the clock was going down on the first quarter of overtime, and Andy didn't look like he had a sense of urgency. There were people that I respect losing their minds. Like, what is he doing? You got to get the ball, not understanding the rules that they're just going to the second quarter. He doesn't have to hurry anything. Ultimately, he scored. It didn't matter.
That's some guy on Twitter.
No,
Kyle Shanahan's the coach.
I'm not talking about
49ers. I'm not going to comp him to some idiot on Twitter that doesn't know the rules.
Yeah, I'm not talking about fans. I'm talking about people that should know better.
Yeah, people who cover the league.
And I'm not going to throw them under the bus, but people that should know better. It doesn't surprise me. Back when the Donovan McNabb kerfuffle, and it didn't surprise me. Players are like point and go. They're not like so, and that's one of the good things. they're not like so invested. Like fans are so emotional and so invested. They can't be like that because they got to get up and go to work the next day and the worst loss. And they're like, point me. That's the problem to me with Kyle Shanahan. You have to inform these players of every potential situation that comes up. That's what makes Andy great. It's not the play calling. It's not even the play design. It's not corn dog. It's just stinking preparation. The guy prepares for everything. I tell Jody all the time, you could ask Andy, what are you going to be doing on a Tuesday in training camp in 2026? He's got a binder. He's got the day set up.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the complete opposite of Shanahan, which is the extremes of it all. Is the one guy was so unprepared, he had no idea. And then you got the most prepared guy who was pretty much putting this in the brain of the player since OTAs and training camp.
Yeah.
I would say majority of coaches probably got to that at some point, but I doubt it was training camp. So
No.
you have the one side of it, and then the complete other side, and then, of course, Andy Reid wins it. But what a turnaround for Andy from where he was here and can't win the big game to this guy. If this continues, we'll probably pass Bill Belichick in championships. And what are the odds we get this right after the Tom Brady experience? They overlapped at one point. You'd be lucky to have somebody play this well at the quarterback position 20, 25 years after Tom Brady. And we get this as they cross over during their careers sort of ending and starting. It's bizarre. It's amazing, though.
Oh, by the way, let me take one more gratuitous shot at Kyle Shanahan here.
Sure.
He had 2 weeks before he had to play his first playoff game. There was only 2 teams that had 2 weeks. Andy Reid, who I'm guessing was doing significant John Harbaugh, who was doing significant preparation, and Kyle Shanahan. So if you hadn't gone over the new overtime rules for the playoffs for the first 17 weeks of the season, doesn't matter because you're not going to play under those rules. But you better get it in the 2 weeks. The other, however many teams not named Baltimore, had to get it done in 1 week. He had an extra week, and he still didn't get the explanation. Oh, and then you dodged the bullet. You don't get the overtime for your 2 playoff games. You got 2 more weeks before the Super Bowl to sit him down and go, do you realize we changed the overtime rules for the playoffs? And he didn't do it again. I'm sorry, fireball.
I get it. I get it. I get the fire.
By the way, I can't, obviously, there's no way I can prove this, but I would bet heavy money. There's 32 NFL head coaches. I would bet more than half would be Kyle in this situation.
I agree.
Not Andy.
I agree.
I mean, would bet that.
Look, we're not NFL head coaches.
On the record, what would it be? Would Nick Sirianni be Kyle Shanahan, or would be
Hell yes. Yeah. Hell yes, he would. Mr. CEO, yes, he'd screw this up. Oh, he'd screw this up.
I don't think so, because Nick prides himself on, and I know he's taken some hits, he prides himself on situational football. And Kelsey had mentioned on this podcast that they talked about that if they were going to be in that situation. So I kind of believe. I don't think.
How about this? All right, I'll lay out a little scenario. Nick Sirianni's clueless. He's looking around. His eyes are screaming, I got no idea.
And you know why? I'm thinking out loud. Go ahead.
Hold on. Here's Brian Johnson, who saves the day. He puts in his little head. Hey, Nick, by the way, they changed the rules. We win the Super Bowl because Brian Johnson knows what he's doing.
And I'm glad we're out, because
that's a pipe dream.
Because I was thinking about this as we were talking. So I'm glad you guys got me to this point. No, the Eagles definitely would have been prepared, because the guy who changed the stinking rule was John Ferrari. So John Ferrari would have made, and you muted yourself, Jody. You're muted. John Ferrari changed the stinking rule. So the Eagles understood the rule, so I'm giving John the credit, because John's that's what he was, football ops, before he was
compliant.
Compliant.
You know what I didn't like, by the way, and this is a shot at someone on the Eagles. I don't know if this is a hot take. I don't know if people agree with me here. It seemed like I was on an island by myself. I did not like what Fletcher Cox did to Deebo Samuel after the game. I really do. I feel like all we do is rip the Niners for being losers and being crybabies. Fletch did that. Fletch was doing what Deebo does. That is so ridiculous. I feel is like 3 seconds after the game. By the way, Fletch, our team collapsed insanely to the point where the 49ers broke our core and made the entire organization change from top to bottom. They did that to you by coming into your house, and they went significantly farther than you, and then you're going to mock them for losing in overtime of the Super Bowl 3
To
seconds
Patrick
after the game
Mahomes,
ends.
by the
Yeah,
way.
like, I don't know. I love Fletch. We all love Fletch. He's one of the greatest Eagles. He's a phenomenal guy, right? But I just didn't like that. He played the exact same card that Debo plays that we despise here, yet the whole city loved it. Yeah, eat a dick. Like, come on.
Yeah,
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Here's why I didn't get as worked up about it as you did, Hunter. It was a direct Debo attack.
It was.
If it had been a 49er attack, I would take the same exact attitude you did. Wait a minute. How quickly we forget what the 49ers did to the Eagles, then I would have had a problem with it. Debo is he's a jerk, and he's a pompous ass, and he's a wide receiver diva and all those things. So if you keep your shot just to him and attack him, all right, it's petty, but it's not bad.
Yeah, it was petty. I thought it was positive because Fletch was talking like an Eagle again. I thought, he was out the door, whether it was retirement or he was going to play somewhere else. So I thought maybe that door's a little bit open.
That's a good point. I never thought of it like that, because one of the interviews of Mehdi that Jason Kelsey was doing, I'm sure you guys brought this up, when he kept referring to the team as they instead of we.
Eagles. Never said we once. Said Eagles every time on the Chris Long.
It's the off season. We got to parse this stuff.
Of course. But then Travis Kelsey goes, I think that he's got some football left. What are you guys doing to me over here?
Yeah. Well, I saw our old buddy Devin Caney and your colleague at WIP, guys. She was worried about him going to play in Kansas City with Travis. I'm like, Kansas City's got Creed Humphrey, a 24-year-old all-pro center. That one you don't have to worry about. Unless
maybe he asked Kelsey to play guard. Can't rule it out.
Maybe Creed can play guard.
Yeah, there you go.
Not moving. But,
I
wouldn't worry about that one.
All right, Hunter, this is an important question that John and I will be debating for the next several weeks leading up to free agency. Saquon Barkley to the Eagles?
Ugh.
Whole bunch of people putting that out there into the universe. I don't see it. John doesn't see it. Unless we've got a hidden story that nobody knows about, that Saquon Barkley is the biggest Eagle fan on the face of the planet and will come here to play
Penn
for
State
the veteran minimum. That's not happening. He fought long and hard to get paid last year. I don't know why he would fight any less hard this year. There's no chance Saquon Barkley's going to be an Eagle, is there?
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to figure out if they're going to bring Swift back or not, right? I mean, the numbers pop, but is that going to be enough to get a payday in this market? Barkley can barely get any sort of payday, so I wouldn't be surprised if Swift is looking for something, can't find something. Hey, he had good numbers here last year, maybe with Kellen Moore. I don't know. I have no idea, honestly. I can't get a pulse here on what they're going to do at the running back position because they don't care enough. They'll find anybody and go plug them in there, so it's very hard to kind of test the market with that when you see names, So
we're in big name trap season. I give Joe Banner credit. Big name trap, big name.
They won't get Bark. Can they franchise tag him one more time, by the way?
I believe they cannot.
Yeah, I think
not to,
because he signed a contract last year with the Giants. And
that's right.
That was part of it that they said they would not franchise.
I believe. I'll double check on that. But one big name shook loose yesterday with a history with Big Fangio. So you know how that goes. And the Eagles need safeties. And Eddie Jackson was an all-pro. He was great. I mean, great under Big Fangio in 2018. He's been less great, to put it mildly, ever since Big Fangio has left. And he was terrible last year. And
how old is he now?
He's
30.
He's 30.
Okay, it's younger than I thought you would say.
Yeah. Well, we're 2018. That's pretty far in the rearview mirror. Should people you want to find the 2018 Eddie Jackson, don't you? As a young player, rather than bring in another Band-Aid who might be a little bit better of a Band-Aid than Kevin Byard. cheaper, obviously. But do you want to go down that route, or do you want to
No.
reboot this thing?
Yeah, I want to try and find that balance, right? Like, we don't know what the Hassan Reddick thing is going to be. We don't know where Jason Kelsey is. We don't know where Fletcher Cox is in the return and all this. But I'd imagine if Kelsey comes back, it's not to just have another sort of retool, right? It's to go after this thing. And I don't know how I feel about some of these names that we saw last year, these guys who have experience, who has done well in the past, the Shaq Leonards and all this. Where does that really get you, right? Like, are you trying to make an
the
impact?
Shaq Leonard stuff? That was all the buzz.
I know.
And then they had to see him play.
I know. And the Colts, who were good, were letting go of someone who means so much to their organization.
Yeah.
That should have smacked you right in the face. So, it seems like the whole we got guys that can hold it down philosophy, whether they can or can't, that idea of older guys with some experience, it's backfired more than it's helped you as of late. And I think you got to go after it and get impact style of guys. So, and this is what you can do, and Howie Roseman is good at this, with guys that have 1 year left on their deal. We're dealing with it now with Reddick, but they went out and got a C.J. Gardner-Johnson, impact level of guy, and then, there might be some contract situation stuff to play out after, but I'd rather go that route than go with an Eddie Jackson or an older guy, because, C.J. Gardner-Johnson was getting interceptions left and right. Let's get creative here. If you're not going to draft them, and I don't want to go with the old veteran guys, you got to get creative to get these dudes in the NovaCare complex, and that might be the route that Howie seems to go. At least that's just an outside view looking in kind of thing.
All right, I need your view, Hunter, and John, I'd like yours as well. Cornerbacks and safeties. We oftentimes refer to the back seven, which that I can surely see a difference, as the linebackers are not the same as the corners and the safeties. There's some safeties play like linebackers, look like linebacker type size, but they're different. I draw a much tighter comparison between cornerbacks and safeties. So I look at the back five more than the back seven. Do you need a balance on the age and experience of those positions? Because we assume Slay's coming back. There's a chance Bradbury's coming back. Do I really want to add another 30-year-old of those five positions? And, oh, by the way, you got to figure out who the hell's going to play slot corner, and we don't know who that is just yet. Do we need 3 30-year-olds in those positions?
No.
I would say that's too much. I think they need – if
I
you want to tell me, Jody, shut up. Cornerbacks are cornerbacks, safeties are safeties. Don't tie them together. That I'm wrong in doing so. I do tie them together. If they're keeping Bradbury, which we don't know what's going to happen there just yet, you can't bring in a 30-year-old safety.
No, here's the problem, too, though, is I'm not a big Reed Blankenship guy. Now, he's fine. He's an NFL player, right? But I don't like him as my number one safety. If he was in a rotation, in a mix, and he played some snaps, that's fine. But I feel he played way too much, and he was too much of an emphasis as a safety. So you have your old corners, and then you have Sidney Brown, who I think will progress and be good, but he's so raw. So we almost have, once again, we're talking about the extremes. You got Bradbury, who's burnt toast, and then you got someone like Sidney Brown, who's just so new and so raw, and it's fun to watch him play, and he's a hard hitter. He's willing to go, but, there's a lot of mistakes that come with that. So you have your two extremes, and we need to find some way to marry the two and have that in a couple different players. And I don't know how they get that is my problem.
Well, I was talking down the stretch last season. It was clear they needed to get more speed in the secondary. And that's just the reality of, young guys are fast. And they come in, everybody's fast. I always get NFL players are fast, but there's a different level when you're talking about Kelly Ringo, for instance, and James Bradbury.
Here's a name, though, real quick about young guys, maybe. The Isaiah Rodgers thing, the Eagles are high on him.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
John brings him up all the time.
Big time. They like him a lot. So
I think he's going to be the nickel corner. Now he's got to prove, and he's taken a year off, not taken, obviously suspended. You got to see if he's back, but he was showing some talent in Indianapolis. I thought that was a very savvy Howie Roseman move to just stash him. And look, I love Avonte Maddox, but guy can't stay healthy and he's expensive. I think they got to turn the page there, and hopefully Isaiah Rodgers can lock down that position. Hunter Brody at Broads81 on X. Make sure you follow him there. Does a tremendous job. His own Broads Media on YouTube, Sports Radio, WIP, Bleacher Report. You're doing stuff for Bleacher Report now?
That's right, baby. You just keep going. What else is there? Keep it going. We don't stop. I'm like Jody Mack. This mouth doesn't shut up over here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But here's the problem. When we get a report that Isaiah Rodgers took Broads'
Took the app, man.
And
took the app
went to the app, and he suspended again. Then
hopefully you learn.
You have problems, Broads.
Yeah, hopefully you learn.
Did you see the story on him on ESPN where he said he threw $50 down? I always love hearing the stories on how much. Like, am I supposed to really believe that this NFL player threw $50 for a family member on a game?
He was he was just helping a guy out who
Come on.
They didn't have legalized gambling in his state yet.
Come on.
He was carrying his buddy's bet for him.
$50? Like, we're doing this for $50.
He's a good guy. So yeah.
All right.
Might be.
Well, if you guys ever need anything, I'll throw it down on my app for you.
I need to get one in. I'm calling you, Broads.
Yeah.
If I'm on vacation or somewhere, I'm in a state. How many we got left? 4 in the United States that don't have gambling these days. I don't even know how many there are. I'll call you first, and you'll put my action in for me.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. Broads, always a pleasure. Thanks, bud.
You got it. See you guys.
See you, man.
Brody, Broads Media, and WIP here with us on Birds 365. All right, we got to come back. We'll put a bow on the show, put a bow on the week on this full Football Friday.
Go to get